Yelena means a hero. There is no higher calling.
Yelena is a former Black Widow operative who has lost her reason to live.
Should have come back for you.
Depressed and angry all the time.
No. That's just a fairy tale.
But after her boss tried to kill her, she regained her fighting spirit.
Yeah, this just isn't working for me anymore. You complete this last assignment for Oxen, you have a deal.
But when she shows up to carry out the mission, she was ambushed. In her search for revenge, she teams up with a bunch of antiheroes. Together, they try to take down their former boss.
No one's coming to save the day.
I think we are. We can be the ones that are coming.
But she unleashes a dangerous enemy to destroy them.
That's just a fairy tale.
I am a void. Look what you unleashed. You can't outrun the emptiness.
Will they succeed or fail? Stick around to find out what happens next.
We can't stop him alone. No one can. But we can find a way. Together.
The movie starts with Yelena. She says something feels off inside her. Like there's this deep, empty space she can't explain. At first she thought that feeling started when her sister died. But now it feels like something even bigger, heavier, like this weird existential void. In the middle of all that mess in her head, she throws herself off a tall building. But right before hitting the ground, she pulls her parachute. Perfect timing. With a hint of irony, she says maybe she was just bored. She lands on the rooftop of another building and gets into a full-on fight with a group of guys. She figured throwing herself into her work would give her life some meaning, but now she can't even focus. She's not happy. She doesn't feel a sense of purpose. And without purpose she feels like a leaf on a tree. Or worse, like a leaf just floating down some random river. This time, her mission's to do a facial scan and destroy some evidence tied to a lab. But in the middle of all that, she finds a little guinea pig they've been testing on. Before she can finish the job, though, a scientist barges in. Yelena starts to think the guy might actually be the key to the facial scan. The scientist, who weirdly enough seems to know a lot more about her than he should, tells her she was probably sent by Valentina to wipe everything out. But he warns her that lab belongs to a group called OX, and whatever they're working on could put all of humanity at risk. He tells her she's making a huge mistake. Then, right in the middle of the standoff, bam, he hits her. Still, Yelena gets out of it without breaking a sweat. She takes him down fast, but right before she finishes him off, he drops a bombshell, something called Project Sentry. Yelena strolls off sipping a coffee, while the whole building goes up in flames behind her. She radios in, mission complete. Meanwhile, Bucky Barnes is sitting in on an interview. He's a high-level congressman now. Later, he heads into a courtroom where there's a hearing to kick Valentina de Fontaine out of her position as CIA director for good. Bucky's all in. He wants her gone. During the trial, it comes out that Valentina was actually part of OX, a secret group accused of running a bunch of illegal labs all over the city. There's even suspicion they've been experimenting on humans, trying to cook up their own version of a super soldier. Valentina, on her end, insists that everything she's done was always for a greater cause. She says with most of the Avengers gone, someone had to step up and every move she's made, whether as CIA director or as part of OX, was all to keep people safe. But right after the trial wraps up, she tells her assistant to wipe out anything that could tie her to what's going on. Things take a turn, though, when her secretary walks in with bad news. One of the labs has been completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Yelena goes to visit her dad, Alexei, aka the Red Guardian. Meets her like always, full of energy, and starts going on about how he's been super busy this past year, met all kinds of important people, and how moving away was the best thing he's done. But pretty quickly, he picks up on it. Yelena didn't come just to catch up, so he straight up asks her, "Why are you really here?" She tells him she needs to talk about Valentina, thinks she might be about to quit, but Alexei, with this bitter little smile, admits the truth. He's miserable in that place, and she shouldn't be quitting. Actually, he asks for her number, says he'd give anything just to work with her again. Lately, Yelena can't stop asking herself why she's still doing these missions. What's the real point of keeping on taking orders from Valentina? While she's stuck in that headspace, her dad, the Red Guardian, chimes in, says the job comes with fame, fortune, and hey, fortune gets you friends, power, even some pretty stylish outfits. He admits straight up back when he was serving the nation, pulling civilians out of danger and getting praised like some kind of god. That's when he felt most alive. Later on, Yelena checks in with Valentina to report the last mission's done. But this time she brings something else to the table. She wants a change. She's tired of working in the shadows. She wants something more public, more above board, something that actually feels meaningful. As usual, Valentina dodges the straight answer. Instead, she hits her with an offer, one last mission for OX. After that, they'll talk, maybe even cut her loose for good. She explains there's a vault not far from where Yelena is. A spot holding Ox's most sensitive stuff, and someone's planning to break in. Valentina wants Yelena to tail the suspect, find out exactly what they're after. She shows up at the location and finds classified documents. Some seriously disturbing images and photos of lifeless bodies. That's when John Walker, U.S. agent, steps in, rocking a suit that screams Captain America. No talking, no warning. He just launches straight into a fight with Yelena. But then the game changes. Another figure shows up, Taskmaster. Turns out it's Antonia Dreykov, the daughter of one of Yelena's oldest enemies. Antonia was turned into a weapon by her own father, put through a brutal experiment that gave her the ability to instantly mimic any fighting style That's what made her one of the deadliest products of the Red Room. But she's not there for Yelena. She's after John Walker. Things spiral fast. In the chaos, Taskmaster gets taken down, knocked out cold. Moments later, Ghost Ava Starr shows up, phasing in with her signature glitchy vibe. And right then, a young guy stumbles onto the scene. Says his name's Bob, but has no idea how he got there or what the hell's going on. Meanwhile, across town, Bucky Barnes is having a quiet meeting with Mel, Valentina's personal assistant. She knows exactly who Bucky is and what he's trying to do. He cuts right to it, tells her he gets it. She didn't choose to work for Valentina. Then, just in case she ever stumbles across the kind of evidence that could bring everything down, he slips her his number. Didn't say much, but the message couldn't be clearer. Back inside the vault, the group uncovers a harsh truth. At some point or another, every single one of them has worked for Valentina. They've all carried out secret missions under her command. They're useful but disposable, and if they vanish tomorrow, no one would even notice. Ghost doesn't want to believe it. She tries to phase out, make a run for it, but something stops her. A weird sound. A deep low hum building up like the whole place is about to cave in. And that's exactly what's happening. Valentina's set a trap. She's turned the vault into a damn incinerator, and from her tablet she starts cranking up the heat. Her plan? Burn every witness who tie her to this mess. Panic hits. The team scrambles, searching for a way out. Ghost manages to slip through the wall, gone in a blink. The others think she ditched them, but just seconds before everything blows, she's back. Using her phasing power, she pulls them out one by one. And just as the place goes up in flames, the whole crew gets blasted out by the shark wave, barely alive but out. Amid the wreckage, Yelena locks eyes with Bob, and suddenly, without warning, she's yanked into a memory that haunts her. She's reliving her very first mission, back when she tricked someone who meant everything to her and then killed them. Meanwhile, Mel reports back to Valentina, tells her that her guests somehow managed to escape the little welcome gift she left for them in the vault. And more than that, she suspects they might be starting to band together against her. Valentina just laughs it off, calls them a walking antisocial disaster. She's convinced they're too messy, too broken to actually pull anything off. But then Mel shows her a still frame. Someone new. A face they don't recognize. Bob. That wipes the murk off her face. Valentina orders a full investigation. At the same time, the Red Guardian's pulled off a slick move of his own. He's gone undercover as Valentina's personal driver, and thanks to that front row seat, he's been picking up a lot more than she realizes. Back with the ragtag crew who barely made it out of the vault. The mood is tense. All eyes are on Bob. Nobody knows who he is or where he came from. When they press him for answers, all he can say is he was getting his blood drawn and then boom, he woke up here in pajamas. Walker's had enough. Annoyed by Bob's clueless vibe, he suggests they just toss him into the fire and be done with it. Bob, totally unfazed, fires back. If you were Captain America, then damn, this country was really screwed. The tension spikes, fists clench. It's about to go bad. But Yelena steps in before it explodes, talks him down, keeps the team from tearing itself apart. Bob, voice shaky, pulls Yelena aside, tells her he's tired of running, that his life doesn't make sense anymore. He's feeling that same kind of emptiness, just like the one she's been carrying. But Yelena doesn't flinch. She looks him straight in the eye and says, "We're getting out of here together. Then you can figure out what to do with your life." And right then, John Walker finds an exit. Elsewhere, Bucky Barnes gets a surprise call from Mel. She says she's been thinking that the truth is no one's coming to save them. The Avengers, they're not coming back. Bucky tells her he can protect her, but he needs more information, more truth. Mel hesitates, asks, "You still know how to trace phones?" Bucky pauses, his voice heavy. "Yeah, but I left that life behind." Back in the underground, the group is making their way through a massive tunnel. It's tough, steep, cramped, but they stick together, climbing, pushing, pulling each other up step by step toward the light. At one point, things almost fall apart. John Walker slips, nearly takes the whole team down with him, but somehow they manage to pull it together and they all make it out alive. Meanwhile, Mel hands Valentina a new file, fresh intel on Project Sentry. Valentina brushes it off, insists every test subject. And deep down, Valentina's not so sure anymore. The truth is, Bob is actually Robert Reynolds, one of the original test subjects. And the reason he was in that vault? Unlike all the others, he survived the procedure, which means for the first time ever, the experiment may have actually worked. Back with the escapees now outside the vault, the group starts to regroup. But just as John Walker reaches out to shake Bob's hand, Bob gets pulled into a memory. In this vision, Bob's staring at his phone, eyes glued to a breaking news alert. They're talking about the fall of a major superhero. He's so locked in he doesn't even notice his own baby crying next to him. The moment turns sour. Back to reality. Just as the group is about to make their final move to escape, a military squad rolls up. They're surrounded. Nowhere to run. They all know this might be it. Amid the chaos, they huddle fast and put together a last-minute plan to hold their ground. But far away, watching everything unfold, Valentina gives one specific order. No lethal force. There's someone in that group she still needs alive. Yelena decides to stay back with Bob. Meanwhile, Ghost phases through the perimeter ahead of the others, waiting outside, ready to help. John Walker braces himself. The first wave of soldiers is closing in fast. As part of the plan, Yelena's supposed to trigger the overhead lights, blind the incoming squad, buy them a few precious seconds. While they wait, Yelena and Bob talk. He's still disoriented, but tells her pieces of his past are starting to come back. Says someone once offered him an experimental drug, promised it would change his life, said it was for people who wanted to feel useful, important. Bob admits he's been getting these strange emotional spots, moments of wild happiness that come out of nowhere, then out of nowhere again, crushing sadness. And deep down, he feels like he did something horrible. He just doesn't know what it was. But no more time to wonder. The first wave of soldiers is in. Yelena rushes to trigger the lights, but it doesn't work. The system's fried. The place stays dark. And Walker? He ends up facing the whole squad by himself. When Yelena and Bob catch up, they find him standing over a pile of unconscious enemies. Still on his feet, barely, but no time to catch a breath. Another wave is already incoming. Yelena, locked in, hands Bob a weapon. Bleeding, shaken, still trying to remember who the hell he is. But he asked to help. Now it's time. Together they take on the next assault side by side, and somehow they manage to push back the ND wave. Walker, exhausted and gasping, turns to them and says next wave hits in seconds. We got to move now. With no other choice, the crew strips the fallen soldiers and throws on their uniforms. It's the only way to blend in and make it out alive. Bob, still limping and weak from his injuries, moves with the help of the others. They think Ghost ditched them, but she didn't. She rolls up in a stolen truck, ready to get them out. But when they reach the ID checkpoint, it all falls apart. The guards aren't buying it. They know something's off. No way out, no time to think. Bob looks around, breathing heavy, then makes a choice. He steps out of the truck, gun raised in the air, yells out, "I'm the one you're after." He gives himself up, a last-ditch distraction, and in that moment he's riddled with bullets. The others have no choice. They make a break for it. But then something impossible happens. Bob doesn't die. Not only does he survive, he starts to float. Eyes wide in total shock, he rises off the ground. He's flying. Everyone watches from below, stunned. And then, without thinking, Bob rockets into the sky, then dives down like a missile. The blast he causes doesn't level the place. But it's enough. Huge impact. Soldiers down. Bob crashes hot, knocked out cold. The rest of the team scattered by the shockwave. Valentina watches it all unfold, eyes cold, calculating. She gives a sharp order. Find Bob now, and as for the others, capture or kill them. Elsewhere, Valentina contacts her assistant, Mel, tells her they're relocating one of the old bases. Mel admits there's still no sign of Yelena or the others. Valentina doesn't even flinch. She says flat out, they all need to be eliminated, every last one. They're the only evidence we have left. Later, the team, exhausted and battered, treks across a dry, cracked desert path. And then he shows up. Yelena's father, Alexei Red Guardian, strides in, suit on, chest out. He's late, way too late. Stop Valentina from trying to roast his daughter alive. But still he came. He sees her standing, not alone, but surrounded by survivors. Not soldiers, not agents. A team formed not by orders but by choice. He grins, eyes gleaming with pride. So you finally found yourself a pack of reckless anti-heroes. That's when one of them speaks up. We've got a name, actually. The Thunderbolts. Alexei bursts out laughing. Loud, honest, full of joy. And yeah, that name, Thunderbolts. It wasn't just random. It came from Yelena's childhood. Back when she played on a scrappy little soccer team called the Thunderbolts. They didn't win a single game, but maybe this time, maybe they actually stand a chance. Fits, really. Every one of them feels like a loser in one way or another, thrown out, forgotten. But as the city gets closer on the horizon, some of them start talking about splitting up, finding new lives, going solo. Red Guardian's not having it, he tells them straight. That's not the answer. They should stay together, be something big, something legendary. Yelena cuts in cold, sharp. That's not gonna happen. As long as Valentina's hunting them, they don't stand a chance. Then headlights. A convoy rolls in fast. Red Guardian jumps to start his car, but it barely sputters. The thing's toast. Yelena moves first, ambushes the lead truck like a ghost in the dark. Ghost herself gets ready to fight too. But Valentina's people are stacked, heavily armed. Out of nowhere, roaring in on a motorcycle, Bucky Barnes, the Winter Soldier. He hits the scene like a storm, blows the third truck clean off the road with perfect aim. Later on, we see Bucky's got the whole team tied up. Not rough, not aggressive, just secure. He tells them he doesn't see them as a threat to him. They're evidence. He players in the case he's building to take Valentina down. He wants her out of power, locked away in a high-security cell. Nice enough but sealed tight. Meanwhile, Valentina steps into a dimly lit room. Robert Bob is there, still weak, still healing but alive. She reminds him. He volunteered for the experiment. This was his choice. But the first thing out of Robert's mouth. Where is he? Elena, where are the others? Valentina leans in, voice smooth, cold. She twists it all. They left you. They're fugitives, criminals. You think they remember you? She feeds the doubt, pours it in like poison. Then, softening, she plays her final card, tells him he needs to stop worrying about them and focus on himself, on who he is and who he could become. She tells him she knows him better than anyone. She knows about his mother's illness, his history with addiction, every dark little corner he's tried to block out. You were always searching for something, she says, and you found me. Only I understand you. Only I see how perfect you really are. She reaches for him, but Robert reaches back, and the second their hands touch, her father, terrified, tells her to hide. And then, right in front of her eyes, he's killed. A moment she's never escaped, now ripped wide open. Shaken by what she saw, Valentina takes a step back, asks for a moment to collect herself. But before she can leave, Robert speaks. His voice is calm, steady. I'll try to control it. Bucky stands in front of the team, arms crossed, tells them flat out they're his main evidence against Valentina. But the team pushes back. They don't work for her anymore. She betrayed them, tried to burn them alive. Everything changed when they met Bob. He was part of something called Project Cntry. He survived it. They tell Bucky he flew, he exploded and died, but Bucky stays stone-faced, not convinced, not yet. Then his phone buzzes. It's Mel. Her voice is tense. She tells him Valentina has bopped. She's gotten to him. And yes, he did survive Project Sentry, but now he's a serious threat. Only then does Bucky's expression shift. He steps forward, cuts the ropes and frees the team. We need to move. Elsewhere, Valentina meets with Mel one-on-one. She tells her the world's full of bad people and even worse ones, and that she's made her choice which side to stand on. Before walking away, she leans in. Let me know when you come to your senses. Then she heads off to train Robert, and when she sees him starting to gain control, floating with intention, power crackling just beneath his skin, she watches him with pride and smiles. Valentina leans into Robert one more time, voice low, almost tender. No one else sees what you really are, but I do. And that's what makes you perfect. Cut to chaos. The thunderbolt storm, Valentina swear. Red Guardian quietly approaches Yelena. No more jokes, no bluster. Just him. Honest. Finally. We've been through a lot, he says. But we're still father and daughter. He tells her he remembers the good moments, the sweet small ones, when she was little, affectionate, laughing. Maybe, he says, maybe her first test in the Red Room broke something too early. But even back then I saw strength in you and a softness no one could erase. But there's no time to savor it. The sky rips open with a roar. Sirens scream. People run. Sentry now fully consumed by the void. The dark force living inside him has snapped. He's unleashed. And now, with no leash, no handler, he tears through the world like a living storm. Nothing is safe. No one. The Thunderbolts regroup. Old grudges dropped. Petty fights forgotten. Because now all that matters is saving whoever they can. Amid the chaos, they jump into action, evacuating civilians, pulling people from rubble, clearing paths. Sirens wail, buildings crumble. And through it all, they're met with applause. Cheers for a moment, they're seen. But it's not enough. Everyone knows. Deep down, the void is stronger than any recognition. It devours everything. While the others tend to the wounded and search for a way out, Yelena walks toward Bob. He stands at the edge, silent. She reaches out. He looks at her eyes heavy. Maybe you were right, he whispers. In the end, we're all alone. Then he steps forward and disappears into the void. Red Guardian watches, frozen, mouth open, heart racing. But before he can run toward the edge, John Walker grabs his arm. Wait, he says. She might not be dead. When I touched Bob, I saw something. A memory. A whole moment I'd forgotten. Maybe that's where she is now. Yelena is inside the void. She's fallen through the cracks of reality. Caught in a dimension that shifts, folds, and bleeds with memory. She's trapped, locked in a loop of her past. Her first mission. The one that left a scar on her soul. Then slowly, she breaks through it. Only to land in another memory. Even darker. She's perfect in this one. Efficient, cold, and around her, the others are punished, beaten, broken for not being like her. The memories don't stop. Each one hits harder than the last. Yelena pushes forward, bleeding, breaking inside. Then through the shimmer of a mirror, she sees him, Bob. She rushes toward the reflection, desperate to reach him, and he lets her in. He allows her to enter the memory. But something's wrong, very wrong. It's not just Bob in there. There's something else behind his eyes, twisting his voice, fraying the edges of who he is. The void speaking through him, bending his memories, blurring his identity. Bob, what's left of him, speaks in a soft, hollow voice. Some days I feel unstoppable, like I could lift the whole world. And then there are the other days when nothing makes sense, when everything I care about you just fades. Yelena steps forward, firm, clear. That pain doesn't get the final word. You don't have to let it consume you. But Bob pulls back. He gestures around the dark room. This place is comfortable, he says. Out there, people are worse. Yelena watches it unfold, gut clenched. Then she speaks steady and strong. What you said in the vault, you were wrong. We don't have to carry this alone. We can share the weight. The void begins to lash out. Its presence no longer subtle, no longer quiet. Memories twist into shape. They attack. But no one can die here, because death doesn't live in this place. Pain does, just as it starts to unravel. The Thunderbolts burst into the dimension, led by Red Guardian. They came for Yelena, because no matter what's happened, they're still a team. They rally together, dodging the living shadows of memory, fighting to survive. Yelena remembers something Bob said. This room is the quiet one, which means the most ones are still ahead. Maybe the way out is the one that hurts the most. And with that realization, they press deeper into the void, into the darkest corners of Bob's mind. While in the real world, the city continues to fall, consumed by the shapeless horror unleashed above. One by one, they walk through Bob's most buried memories, scenes of cruelty, rejection, isolation, moments where he begged for love, for help and got nothing, until finally they reach the beginning, a laboratory cold, dimly lit, where it all started. Bob stands there, quiet, almost. He tells him this was the place where they promised him a drug, one that would make him stronger, one that would finally prove he mattered, that his life had value. And there, still lingering in that room, is the void, watching, waiting, feeding. Yelena steps forward. We found the exit, she says. We're leaving. And that's when the void drops the illusion and reveals its true form. The void erupts. A wave of pure destruction tears through the space, ripping at everything, crushing memory, shattering hope. Bob freezes, paralyzed. He can't face it. The void corners him, isolates him, whispers into his mind. They don't care about you. They're just using you. They'll forget you like everyone else did. But this time Bob doesn't fold. His eyes light up, glowing, his voice steady. I'm stronger than you because I'm not alone anymore. And for the first time, Bob fights back. Not for revenge, not for strength, not for some idea of glory, but for truth, for himself. He pushes forward even as the void wraps around him, feeding off every crack in his soul. Bob hits it with everything he has, fists flying, scream ripping from his chest, as if pure rage could punch the pain away. The Thunderbolts watch, horrified because they see it now. This is exactly what the void wants, to break Bob down, to drag him into its world, to become it. And Yelena, she won't let that happen. She pushes past the nightmare fragments, shoves through everything in her way, and reaches him. But she doesn't strike. She doesn't scream. She wraps her arms around him and holds on. You're not alone. Then Redguard steps in. Ghost, Walker, Bucky, all of them. They circle around Bob. They hold him together. No powers, no weapons, just presence, just connection. They anchor him in the most brutal, raw, and human moment any of them have ever faced. Not with violence, but with love, with empathy, with friendship. But they beat it. Not with powers, but with what made them human. And just like that, the void faded. Everything snapped back. The city came alive again. People who had vanished started reappearing. The destruction stopped. The sky cleared up. The world finally breathed. Then from the crowd, Valentina. She watches them for a few seconds, then turns and runs. The Thunderbolts chase after her, ready to make her pay for everything. But when they catch her, they realize it's a setup. Valentina's surrounded by reporters, cameras rolling, broadcasting live. She grabs the mic with that poisonous little smirk and says, "Meet your new Avengers. The heroes will protect the city from now on." She walks up to Valentina, takes the mic out of her hand, leans in close. "Now you belong to us." And just like that, the movie ends.